9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Monday, good people. Welcome to another edition of WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet. I am Gerard Bonner, the professor, GB, or whatever it is you feel like calling me today. I'll answer to just about most of it. We've got quite a bit to talk about from a very full weekend of wrestling. There were new champions crowned. We had a whole PLE. We had all kinds of history made and fun stories in the middle of all of it, but we'll get to that in a second. And then we've got stuff that's happened already today. Like, it's just a lot to talk about as we're ending the year very strong. Of course, I am not in here alone. I'm not sure if you'd want to hang out. I mean, I hope I'm decent company on a day like today, but thankfully it's not just me. And I think you'll appreciate
It's
that.
Dion from at All Star Fandom.
Quite frankly, you need to go back to the drawing board because your game absolutely sucks.
There we go.
Dion is here. How are you, sir?
Doing good, man. A little rainy, a little cold. Oh, you know.
I know.
But yeah, happy to be here. It's a Monday. I was out all last week. Did a watch along on Saturday with Will and TK. So just happy to get this back in the rotation of being like my weekly thing.
Absolutely. We love to see that. Also joining us, I mean, if we're going to talk anything elite, we got to bring her on. She's all things PR, all things elite. Courtney is here. How are you, ma'am?
Oh, I've been doing good. It's a victory Monday for me because the Dolphins beat the Jets. Overtime thriller, but it was a fun one. And there's still a lot of football left to play, but a lot has happened. We had deadline over the weekend. Continental Classic Mayhem happened throughout the weekend. We also have Raw tonight, and Saturday, we have Saturday night's main event happening this weekend.
We do. It's a lot of wrestling that we're going to get in here before we all sing Auld Lang Syne, which is pretty cool. How are those Dolphins doing? What's their record?
6-7. So we're kind of tied with the Colts, but it's going to hurt us because the Colts beat us earlier in the year. So we have some tough games because we face the Texans this week, and then we face the 49ers next week. So we have a long road. We have a long road.
Continue to enjoy what is the remainder of the season, for sure.
Yes.
Do that. All right. I believe, I hope I get this right.
It's Councilman Will Ferrell of Strattonville with his Parisiac constituents.
The commissioner is in the building with spirits in hand. Wow.
Yes. We have been celebrating all weekend.
It's Monday.
Whoo! Yeah. Is it?
Wow.
Is it Monday? Yes, we have been celebrating. Professor, you weren't here, but I'd like to say I had my Paul Heyman moment Saturday. I had a new client to introduce, and no one saw it coming. And everybody thought I was lying. Then it happened. And he's the #1 contender for the NXT title.
We will get into
General
that.
himself.
We will get into that for sure. Well, shout out to
this.
did he? I was going to say for our children who may be watching, our commissioner is drinking water. It is a clear beverage, so I want to make sure you guys understand
this was a family show. You
well,
didn't tell
you know the baby. The babies. I mean, occasionally a baby ends up on screen, so let's see. Greetings. Hey, Lewis, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you, Lewis. Thank you for spending your birthday with us. We love to see it. Cousin Ron is here. Always a pleasure, cousin. Easy not. Once this commercial is over, I'm in there. All right. I'm not sure which commercial you're referencing, but great.
Oh, he's watching Twitch. Twitch has like ads before the video.
Oh, that's because we have people coming from Twitch and YouTube and all sorts of places. Awesome. Wherever you're joining us from, thank you so much. Eric, good to see you. Special Little Nobodies, great to see you as well. Aaron Teague, what's the temperature outside? Well, I guess it depends on where in the world you are. It's cold and rainy here in Atlanta, and it was certainly cold over the weekend, very cold, but we're glad to be here. So much happened over the weekend. And so before we get into Deadline, which we are going to touch on, did we do a post show for Deadline?
We did do a post show for Deadline.
We did. Okay. So we won't get too terribly in depth because obviously there's a whole post show for that. But I do want to spend some time talking about one of the many shockers from over the weekend. And that is we have new tag team champions in the WWE as what was supposed to be the Street Profits battling Motor City Machine Guns turned into DIY. And then DIY suddenly got onto the same page. And now they're the tag team champions. What do we make of the hot potato right now that are the WWE tag team championships? Does it mean anything? Do we like it? Is this good for business? What do you think, Dion?
Yeah, I guess we're trying to, I think Courtney might have said in the comments on the show about her being a fan of tag team wrestling, but now they're giving those fans, we're getting storylines within those tag teams now too. We're getting personalities within those tag teams. DIY, not a fan of them as much as I thought I would have been, especially coming out of NXT or way before that. I like that they need some heels. I think they figured out, hey, we need heels. And the way that they went about getting those championships from the Motor City Machine Guns and taking out, I mean, come on, we know they took out the Street Profits, right? Like that goes without saying at this point. But I think it just adds more to the tag team division. Again, Motor City Machine Guns won them as soon as they got to the party, and now we're gonna pass them around a bit. I think SmackDown has a pretty strong tag team division too. So the fact that now we got those guys as heels, and now we got Street Profits, and now we have Motor City Machine Guns, I think there's a good chance of us getting some really good tag team wrestling on SmackDown, storyline wise too. Not sure about Raw, but for SmackDown specifically, I feel like that's going to be a big part of their card moving forward.
For sure. Courtney, your thoughts on the hot potato that is currently the WWE tag team titles?
Well, it's actually refreshing. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the mayor's comments.
Well, the mayor is in the comments saying, I initially read it wrong.
No,
wow.
If you were here that day,
wow,
it was off the rails Friday, and it was. Wow. I was not responsible this time.
Wow,
the sweetest oos was loose.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, Friday was interesting.
I'm frightened. Courtney, back to you.
Yeah, so I was very happy DIY made the heel turn because I do love Johnny, and I don't think I've ever saw him turn heel before. So this is refreshing, and it brings a nice touch to the tag team division. But also, it's going to be interesting to see because there is a lot of backstory with the Motor City Machine Guns and Johnny because they all three of them trained together. So there's a lot of deeper backstory to this. On top of you attacking the Street Profits, there's going to be it's going to be a lot of physical in this rivalry as well. And I don't know if we're going to get reminiscent of like with Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudleys, but with these three teams, this is going to be a very fun rivalry to watch, especially coming in on Friday. And also, I would like for them to start doing some promos since they started turning heel, because that would really escalate them a little bit and get them into that top heel level, thinking, you know what, we're the champs. Step onto us if we try, and we'll see what goes from there.
All right. Councilman, any thoughts on the tag team title situation?
That's some good storytelling right there, because I was not on the DIY train when they came back together. I was like, okay, Okay, but what happened there made me understand actually a lot with what they just did. That also isn't 100% their fault, and I explain it in just a second. But I think it was really great to see them set this the way that it's up. Like, especially you said with the hot potato thing, it's like we never know what's gonna happen. We don't know if these championships are secure, if these titles are gonna remain on these people for a certain amount of time. And to have DIY switch over like that, and we've discussed it on the show of whether does Champa turn on Johnny or does Johnny finally turn on Tampa? And it's like, no, we're not getting any of that. We're actually going to be getting both of them going heel and watching it pay off. And one thing that I really am hoping to see with this title change is something that I think why DIY didn't catch on so much with when they came to the main roster. When they came during that time, they weren't focused on the tag team division. And one thing that made DIY thrive is the 5-star matches that they put on. Mm-hmm. But they were long. You know what I'm saying? Like they were, it went the full 20 minutes, but that's what made it so great. And they have never had a chance to really display that on the main roster. It was very small pockets that they had to have their tag team matches in. Going forward, I hope now that with them seeming like they're now focusing on tag teams of the WWE, we get to see that again. Like we get to see the 20-minute Motor City Machine Guns DIY. Same thing with Street Profits, like showing like that's what makes these tag teams so great. Like when it gets down to that 16-minute wire, it's like, yo, I don't know what's finna happen. And to try to condense them into just a small tag team match, that's why we lost that luster. But I feel like we're finna get those back and get those 5-star matches again from all those tag teams, not just on SmackDown, but on Raw and on NXT from what we saw.
So speaking of Raw and NXT, one of the other pieces of news that we found out on Friday night was that there is this now transfer portal that is now going to be open for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I can't find another great name for it, but it was announced. And this all came because of Raw moving to Netflix and the thought of shaking things up. So there's going to be some transfers happening between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And it'll obviously be happening in time for Raw's debut on Netflix. So here's my leading question. Who do you think becomes part of the Monday Night Raw roster for Netflix?
That's okay. So we're looking at SmackDown and NXT and who
Correct.
could go there.
Correct. So let's see if everybody can give me 2 names.
Who'll pop up on Raw, right?
Yeah. Who will end up and this is not just for the premiere of Raw on Netflix, but who will end up on Monday Night Raw?
I think LA Knight will definitely go to Monday Night Raw. I think we get LA Knight going.
Okay.
That's a good shot for the world title too.
Yeah, because like if we just being honest right now, you're never gonna be WWE champion in like the next 3 or 4 years. That stuff is kind of set right now with like how they running Cody and everything like that. But I think he has a way better shot at becoming world heavyweight champion very sooner going to Raw. I think he benefits the most from SmackDown. And I'm still you said 2. I'm still thinking of an NXT one. Actually, Ethan Page. Ethan Page.
That makes sense.
Ethan Page. Yeah.
Especially after deadline. That makes sense. That makes
and CM
sense.
Punk is there too. So I really I can't wait for that rivalry. The in-ring like mic work is the promo is gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be crazy. Wow. Courtney, your thoughts. Who can end up on Raw in the new Netflix era? 2 people.
Yeah, I'm with Eric.
I'm trying to think because I'm actually gonna go with a tag team that's gonna go on Raw. I'm gonna go with the Street Profits on going on Raw because I feel like SmackDown's already competitive, but it would be nice for Raw's tag team division to kind of up a notch a bit. So who better to do it than the Street Profits? And they can bring a lot of competition. So the Street Profits is one. And for NXT, I'm gonna go with Kalani Jordan from NXT.
Okay, it's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Dion.
Yeah, I'm bringing Carmelo Hayes over.
Okay.
To Monday night. I think that'd be pretty dope. And so Ruka, her highlights have been tearing up the internet since Saturday. Let's get her somewhere where more eyeballs can see her on a Monday night.
Okay.
Okay. We're on the same page, Dion, because as soon as she mentioned it, that's immediately what popped in my head. Oh, hang on. So Ruka could like.
Yeah. I'm going to do what no one's done. I'm taking 2 picks from one place. I think we'll see Lash Legend on Raw. And coming with her is Trick Williams. I think, and I know y'all are looking at me funny, but I want you just to follow the train here. Remember, the night, well, first of all, now I guess we delve into kind of what happened at Deadline for those who are unaware. At Deadline, of course, we had a lot go on, a whole lot go on. And I don't think people fully knew what they were going to make of the men's Iron Survivor Challenge, particularly as we went off the air on Tuesday night. We had the situation with Eddie Thorpe, who was knocked out. He was not cleared to compete, so it left the 5th slot open. That would be filled by Obafemi. Obafemi goes on to win, and now we're going to have Obafemi battle for the NXT Championship against Trick Williams. The key to this is happening at New Year's Evil in LA. The night after Raw goes to Netflix. I think we have a scenario because there's really no way on planet Earth. Oh gosh, I don't want to sound like this, but there's no way Trick Williams beats Obafemi. I don't see a way where that happens.
That would be tough. That'd be tough.
I don't see currently how it happens. So I think that is the way to send him to Raw. Because there's no need for him to fight for the NXT Championship for a 3rd time. Plus, you consider how big of a star Trick Williams is. Sure, they could use him in NXT. I've got no doubt about that. But after the crazy run that Obafemi had as the North American champion, it's very clear they could put NXT on his shoulders and he could run with it. I think they're going to look to really build the star power over on Netflix. And so for me, I think we're looking at a situation with Trick Williams on Monday Night Raw. That's what I'm thinking. Let's go to some of these comments because there's a lot of them. Let's see. Boza thinks Obafemi is going to Raw. He also thinks the Bloodline. He didn't specify old or new. The mayor thinks Nakamura is going. I don't know if he's taking the U.S. title with him. Sol Ruka, Cody Rhodes. Now, now, what's interesting is if you'll remember on SmackDown, there was a conversation involving Gunther and the general manager. So I don't know if we're going to have a scenario where they're going to swap champions. I don't know. To me, I also think this transfer portal or whatever kind of ends up taking the place of the draft because the draft normally happens in April. Like, why would we turn around and do a draft after this? It doesn't make much sense.
Could they just make the draft NXT? Because I felt like they're missing a mark when they didn't do that more. the last draft, it looked they set them up, and I apologize if I'm skipping. I'm not sure why Wi-Fi is connecting or not connecting, but the way they had everybody set up and they gave them hats like an actual draft.
Yeah,
that's a dope thing that they could sort of start consider doing, because we can figure out the main rosters, like transfer portal, let it open, let it stay open. But if we're talking about people who put time in NXT and Raw wants to strengthen their roster, let's pull some people up that way. Give them a Raw hat, give them a SmackDown hat, and let's build towards the future. But yeah, the draft should just be for NXT. That's my personal thought. I didn't mean to get on a soapbox.
No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. I think it is a conversation that ultimately needs to be had, because the draft being what it is, it's never really, it just hasn't hit the same since, years ago when the concept was kind of fresh. But I think with NXT, it could actually feel more like a sports draft, because you're drafting these personalities up. The real question is making sure, and indeed, I think one of the challenges that happened with this draft is the men's roster on NXT ultimately suffered the most. With the people who were pulled up, they are still trying to recover and still haven't fully recovered from that. So they will have to really figure out how they balance that so that NXT is not depleted again, especially now that they're on network television. So
I think just doing it away with the draft is just the way to go, especially now. I think if you could do a sort of like NBA trading seasons, like in that little gap and stuff when they trade folks, I think that's okay. But like having this thing where it's like first round, sixth round, like no, it's just like, yo, hey, let's have a few of these trades come. And then you can even implement it like how y'all do that card game on 2K24. Like, because y'all, they be pushing that so hard with the whole man. Yeah, so it's like I'm find a way to implement that here into moving people around. But it's interesting, but also too, I don't know. I kind of like it when it's like after WrestleMania, when it's like we're gonna shake things up. Like I like my Raw after Mania. Like them doing these things kind of like, oh man, because like to your point of what you just said, like Trick Williams get moved up. Like that's great for the first Monday at Netflix, but man, that Monday after WrestleMania and you hear Trick's music play, I don't know. It's just for me, it just feels different.
Well, here's what I think is also interesting, and this is going to take some adjusting for all of us, is that this whole Netflix deal really has changed everything. It is literally changed everything. We've never heard them go into a January talking about, hey, we're going to switch people on rosters and things like that, and all of the ways that different people are making plans for this. So I think we may see a very different approach in terms of a lot of things in 2025 relative to how WWE does things because of this whole Netflix situation, which I think has potential to really, and then there's a part of me that also wonders from the wrestler's perspective, what they now view as the A show. Because, for many years it was Raw until SmackDown moved to Fox. And when SmackDown moved to Fox, and that was the show that got the most money in terms of, the $1 billion deal, then all of a sudden it's like, we want to be on SmackDown. And they started front loading shows like SmackDown. So that's where you ended up with Roman and Cody and all of these major players over on SmackDown. So to me, anyway, it feels like the balance of power has shifted to Raw as the A show, with it now being on Netflix. But I could be wrong.
I agree. Like that's going to be main priority for them moving forward. Like they've been with USA for years. SmackDown moving to USA is just it almost feels like business as usual.
Correct.
For that. This Netflix deal is something different. It's huge. It's more households. this people who've never watched wrestling before are going to have it on their homepage to press play for the very first time. Those are new fans, new eyeballs to get. So I think that's what they're going to throw a lot of their priority to.
Yeah. And it's hard to ignore that. It's hard to ignore that. I even think, to your point about what's old and what's new, NXT, who has always been kind of really doing really good things, moving to CW, all of a sudden that feels special. And it's not that SmackDown doesn't feel special, but I have to remind myself when I watch it, oh, I'm watching on USA now.
Yeah.
And it feels normal because we've watched Raw on USA ever, with the exception of 1 year, that 1 or 2 years that they were on, Spike TV.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
this is it's an interesting time right now, I think, and we'll see what they do. Now, for those who haven't heard, I think this is also important to know. What's really good about Raw being on Netflix is from here on in, Raw will always be live. So when Raw does an international situation, instead of us having to wait until the normal air time, Raw will air at whenever, this space airs, which I think is good for the show. It's good for the brand. It's good for avoiding spoilers and all of that kind of thing. So it creates an interesting situation for WWE.
Yes.
But yeah, go ahead.
Will they get breaks off again? Because they taped a few shows they're going to tape a few shows this month, right? So they can get like Christmas off.
Yeah, well, that I think will be fine. They don't start the Netflix deal until January.
Oh no, I was just thinking like during when they do get the Netflix deal, I wonder if that's still going to be.
That's a great question.
Like next year.
And I wonder how they'll deal with that. I mean, the good thing is, of course, it'll always be on demand, and I think it'll make the on-demand component that much easier. I'm also interested in terms of how they will determine viewership for that. Will they just base it on minutes streamed, on demand numbers? Will they wait for the end of the week to determine that, as opposed to we're accustomed to overnight and all of those kinds of things? So it's going to be a lot of really interesting things to happen once Raw moves over to Netflix. But going back to Deadline, the other interesting thing that we saw, of course, was the main event being the women's Iron Survivor Challenge, which I just thought was incredible. You end up getting Julia coming out of this as the winner. And so that also means Julia, Roxanne Perez, in LA, first NXT in January. And of course, the councilman is nowhere to be found as there he is.
There he is.
About his client. Does Roxanne Perez leave New Year's Evil still the NXT champion? I'll start with you, Courtney.
Ooh, that is an interesting question. I had the chance to watch the post show from Deadline over the weekend, and Boss Lady did have a good point when it came to long-term storytelling, where, okay, we're going to see Julia and Roxanne again. For me, because I do believe it is time for Roxanne to spread her little wings, because I do believe Julia may be the new women's champion. And also because Roxanne has done it when she was in NXT. She's done it. And also, we're in the middle of Rumble season. So that's also another factor to consider, because you have the first NXT of the new year, you have Rumble in February, you have WrestleMania coming up. So there is a lot of things, and even when I was thinking about it, it's just, she has grown so much, and it's time to spread her little wings and fly onto the main roster. Now, I don't know what show she's going to be on, but she's ready.
Okay. Dion, what do you think about Julia versus Roxanne to start the year in NXT?
Yeah, there's no way Roxanne survives this. Sorry, Will. But I agree with Courtney. I think this might be time. Grant, they're all young, but she's done a lot during her time in NXT. She's grown as a wrestler. She's grown as a character. Now we know who she is. Now let's see where she can do that on the, I keep saying the main roster, on Raw or SmackDown, because I think she's ready. Like, no one's had like quite the run like she's had in NXT. There's not much more for her to do. So sort of giving or passing the torch to that next generation of women in NXT, and her moving on to the next chapter for Raw or either SmackDown, I think that's the best for it. But it's going to be one hell of a match too, because this deadline match was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine with those two get in the ring again on that stage first in January, what they're going to do. So yeah, right. I don't think she survives it, but it's a good thing. Will she doesn't survive, but then she moves on. You know, she goes to conquer another beast or another title. So,
well, then to the councilman we go. Does Roxanne Perez go 2-0 against Julia at New Year's Evil?
Can I just address how no one out of any of y'all besides the professor decided, hey, she beats Julia, gives up the title, and then moves on? Everybody's like, oh, she got to lose to move on. Like, why she can't have her Oscar moment? I'm just throwing that out there. Oscar gave it up. Why couldn't my client give it up? But it's okay. Y'all ain't believed in her since she been here. Only her counsel.
No.
People's nightmare. You stay where you at. You stay. Don't you make me get this microphone.
That's hilarious.
Courtney is with AEW, so she gets a pass. She gets a pass. She is being very logical about it. So I can't, and I'm just not going to pick a professor at all. If he go get them black and white feathers and Hollywood Barnacle, I'm logging off. Not gonna shoot me tonight. No, sir. Here's my thing. Do I think she can beat Julia? Yes. Because for one, we did not get the full match. Cora stopped that match. And if we being honest, it was just cooking up when Cora messed that first encounter up. Mm-hmm. So we have no idea where that was going. So the whole survive thing, that's why I'm like, let's be careful with our verbiage. Because Roxanne hadn't even kicked on the thrusters before this match. Now, talking about it with my client, we are at a crossroads. Moving into 2025, do you allow this new school to go? And I think even the question I even had was something Paul Heyman said, 9th inning. Are we in Roxanne's 9th inning of her championship? And that is a question that I still don't have an answer to yet. Because I can say, like, hey, she still got to take on Stephanie, still got to take on Delta, but then 3 new ones can come, and it's like, oh, well, she got to take them, like,
and they'll be with her in a little while, too. Come on, man.
Yeah, in a way, y'all are right. She has nothing left to prove.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think she disappoints all y'all. She beats Julia. We go all the way. We stand and deliver. We standing and delivering. Because you know what? You know what this taught me? Long-term storytelling, right? And I said it in the post show. We had to get back to the story we was actually at. Everything we saw from the 10 women tag match, all these are the mixed tag match, all of that was a side mission. We just been on a dope side mission. And we just got back to the regular story, which was Roxanne and Julia. So with seeing that, I'm more curious within these next couple of weeks as the year's coming to an end. Do we finish the other story Roxanne has yet to complete? And that is between her and Cora Jade. Does Cora get her moment before Julia gets her moment?
Mm.
I think that is still something very big to consider because that is her last story that she needs to finish. And one that Cora needs to be able to really solidify why that is her division. And I think there is a discussion to be had as to who should get this now, Julia or Cora.
Interesting. Let me go to some of these comments over here. Let's see. Oh, Boza has a question I'm going to make sure we get to. Eric says Julia will get her revenge at New Year's Evil. Boza says if not for Cora, Julia would be the champion now. Let's see. So here's my thought. My thought is, and some of this will, I don't know what y'all will think of this. On one hand, I actually don't think there's a story to finish between Cora and Roxanne. I feel like Cora and Roxanne was very much a 2.0 era kind of story. My friend doesn't like me. She hit me with a skateboard, that type of thing. Neither of them are the same people. So I don't know that there's anything to tie up from a 2.0 perspective in NXT. When I saw Julia win this Iron Survivor Challenge match, and I saw how the match happened, I said to myself, I can tell you what's going to happen in the next 3 months. We're going to have Julia win this championship on the on New Year's Evil, and at Stand and Deliver, it will be Julia and Stephanie Vacour. And that is going to be the rematch that we've all wanted from New Japan that nobody else could do. They're going to be the ones to do it. And it's going to be pretty amazing. The conversation was so good. We needed another elected official. With that said, he's here. The mayor is here. People have been clamoring to hear from the mayor. The mayor is here. Mayor, we're in this conversation about, whether or not Julia will defeat Roxanne at New Year's Evil, and I'm sure you have plenty to say about this.
First things first, Councilman, I got your back. I've already filed the defamation of character against our other WWT parties for pretty much disregarding your client's success to date. That's got to be.
But she just ain't that person.
But I think the cool thing is that we're getting this in a couple weeks. We're not waiting for another PLE. This shows what WWE is doing in the transition period, because we don't have a true PLE for the main roster this month or next month. So they're loading everything up before the Royal Rumble, and it adds that element of surprise. So, but I mean, we still got to remember that we're in this era of the CW where you want things to have some stability. So while I like the idea of having new champions to start the year out, I still think there was something promised to the CW to have some continuity there for a while for people to have that viewership trends. So while they're big matches, I still don't know why you don't wait to Stand and Deliver. For Trick, I like the idea, and I actually like the idea of Trick, Lash, and all the metaphor going to Raw, if that's the case. But also, I think Trick. I think Trick is a small fish in a big pond there, because when I look at the mid-card title picture and stuff like that, and Braun Breaker, there is no way my mind can fathom him being a threat there when Braun is on this tear, and we were going to anoint Braun to Gunther, and then they had to kick him back down just so they can keep telling that story. And then you still got to have Jey Uso back into the mix. So I just don't see him derailing that. For Roxanne, there's a lot of stuff she can do on the main roster, but you think about, I think about what's going on with Liv and Rhea. I think about the new titles that you're trying to put on superstars that are deserving in those mid-card spots right now. And then Nia Jax. Do we have the David Goliath thing with Roxanne trying to take on Nia Jax? I don't see it. So I think you keep these champions in the fold where they are right now. What I put in the chat is one thing I think that can be more compelling outside of our bigger superstars in NXT is like, what if the GM switch? What if you have Ava become the SmackDown GM? Just for interactions with Cody alone that trigger The Rock.
Oh yeah.
And Solo and talking to Solo and got to talk to Roman.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would snarl at Pierce or Aldis being smacked or being NXT GM, but with Ava being on the main roster with everything going on with Cody, it adds such a different layer that we haven't even considered.
I ain't gonna lie.
Look at what happened with Ava and Eddie Thorpe a week ago. Imagine Cody was in that spot and did that.
Aldis and NXT would actually be really dope too.
Yeah,
that would be some compelling storylines.
Aldis would give us that Regal-like kind of situation with when William Regal was there. Very interesting ideas. I like this.
But since you brought this in, now it got me asking everything else now too. With this trade, is the WWID involved? Because if we trade NXT Bonafide, trade them. Trade me NXT right now. That's the number one draft pick right now. If ID is involved, Gerard Bonner, first draft pick, commentary, NXT.
You guys are very, very kind. Let me go to a couple of the questions in the chat. Boza says, what does the panel think of Princess Tiffany saying she will be at New Year's Evil? Mayor brought up a good point. It's just reminding us that she has the case. Do you think that Tiffany Stratton will cash in at New Year's Evil?
Listen, Tiffany says she wants the underground. I'm here to tell you, you better leave that alone, Tiffany. You better leave that underground alone.
I'm saying though, after we saw what happened Saturday, I see why my client feel a little confident because Lola did not wash Jada.
Did not.
Didn't watch it, but it's because, and I actually watched the full thing now. It's because we keep doing this stupid like, oh, I injured my hand, the back fist spot on the post, like we don't have another hand. I just gotta remind my client that she got another fist.
So here's something I've noticed with Lola, and it can change. And I think just with her being in there more, it'll change. What I've noticed with Lola is Lola wrestles like a UFC fighter. So she's looking for a way to beat her opponent rather than wrestling like a wrestler to tell a story. And that's what we were seeing with Jada. Jada was doing that. And I think like Lola is still, because like I could notice even in the UFC, in the underground, Lola was still kind of trying to figure out what to do. Because it's like I can't fight you like a UFC fighter. So it's like, I gotta tell the story like this is an underground. And you can see that her wheels were turning. And I think just the more she's in this rivalry, the more we're seeing matches like that's where she got to start flipping into of like, how do I tell a story as a wrestler, Lola Vice, than just the MMA fighter Lola Vice?
Yeah, it's getting there. Let me. I want to bring up another, because since we're talking about the main champions as well. Mm-hmm. Is it wrong of me to think, this is fair criticism on both sides. Is it wrong of me to think that if Trick does get called up, that him and Melo need each other?
Oh, I don't think that's wrong at all.
No.
And I'm not talking about rivalry. I'm talking about as a pairing.
No, that's what I'm thinking too. I think, I will liken this to DIY. When Gargano came up by himself and Ciampa came up by himself, it was like, oh, cool. And then it never really did anything. And think about how long it took for DIY to actually catch on SmackDown. It's taken them months. Mm-hmm. I definitely think that Trick and Melo need each other at this point. And it may be hard for them to acknowledge, but Melo is an incredible wrestler. He's got personality, but there's something up, but he's kind of that guy. It's almost like the small guy on the playground who's got to have the heavy behind him so that he can talk all of his smack. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not trying to diminish Trick at all. I think for Trick, who has this overwhelming personality, it allows him to still sit under a necessary learning tree, because I think we're now having to really acknowledge that while some of the transition from NXT to Raw and SmackDown, some of that pipeline might have been cluttered by the old regime, it is still an adjustment for NXT stars to make. And I think the adjustment is because it is a different crowd and there is a different, makeup in Raw and SmackDown. And so just coming from NXT doesn't mean everyone translates well. Braun Breaker has translated fairly well, but it took him a little bit of time. But it's interesting. His translation and Mello's has been different.
Yeah, but I think too because where Carmelo jumped, Breaker chose to stay. Because I think both of them could have went up at the same time, but he stayed, and I think that worked with him and Baron Corbin as tag team champs. I think that really did a lot for him before going up, and I think being under Baron's wing got him a little bit more prepared, and not as much as a fish into the big pond, like you said, with Carmelo Hayes. Your first match with Cody Rhodes, and it's like, cool.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Be like, we'll get to that.
I would
agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Professor on this. It's hard for me to see a way where Trick beats Oba clean or whatever happens there. Because that shot of Oba, that's how you reintroduce a superstar. I forgot all about him losing the North American title.
Totally.
That was a beautiful shot.
Mm-hmm.
You thought he was new. You like, who's this?
Right. Because
that crowd didn't appreciate that enough.
And the way they played it, I thought was so slick. I mean, all of the callback to what happened the night before in terms of the transfer portal and things like that. People are thinking it's going to be someone from Raw or SmackDown. We totally forgot the idea that it could be an Oba Femi. And so, again, introducing Oba to this picture, again, I don't see any way that Trick, and here's the thing, it's not a bad thing. Trick is extremely charismatic. He is extremely popular. They think about how whoop that Trick is going to translate in the Intuit Dome.
Yeah.
On Netflix. You hear me?
Royal Rumble. Like
WrestleMania.
I mean, all the places. So it's gonna be something special. So again, I thought Deadline was a really solid show, and all the things that they are doing is really, really great. So shout out to NXT for that. So today was an interesting day for AEW, as All In Texas tickets actually went on sale today. And so that's a big deal for AEW. Of course, this is their first stateside All In situation. The previous ones were all in London at Wembley Stadium. This time they are doing it at Globe Life Field on July 12th. They had all sorts of stars there. They did something live and they streamed it. This is a really big situation for them. Courtney, what are your thoughts on all that they have done for All In Texas? And do you think that this will actually sell out for them?
Ooh, a lot of pressure considering this is their first stadium show in Texas. That's
in the U.S. period at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Texas.
I wasn't. So wait. Pause, because we getting this Southern Texas accent.
Where, Courtney?
Where is it? Where is it now?
Texas.
And let me guess. Do they play trombones there?
No, not in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Actually,
I'm sure somebody does.
No, but in all seriousness, I saw little clips of it, and it's a really fun opportunity for AEW to do in Texas. We've had Sting, Darby Allin. We saw an encounter with Bobby Lashley and Swerve during the press conference. We also got to see an appearance from Bryan Danielson. We haven't seen since Wrestle Dream, so that was a really surprise there. Also, I put this in our chat, but apparently All In is going to be streaming on Max, and Tony Khan confirmed it. So that is a huge plus for it to be on Max, which is huge. And I love that they're now starting to promote it a little bit early and getting everybody involved, because this really is a big deal. And it gives them a break since they're not coming back. Well, they are going back to London for Forbidden Door in August, but Wembley Stadium, they're coming back in 2026. So it really is a nice shakeup of an opportunity there. I'm very intrigued on what's going to happen with storylines because a lot can happen between now and summer for AEW. But I'm ready to enjoy the ride, and we'll see what happens today. But also, kudos to them for an successful show to kick off from Texas.
We all of these small little tidbits we're learning about Courtney here, all very intriguing. So here's the question to ask, and I'm going to start with you, Dion, on this one. You know, when one thing that AEW has done to their credit is whenever they've had a stadium show, they have, you know, begun selling tickets months in advance. They did that, of course, with All in London the first 2 years. They're now doing it here. The challenge, of course, with any stadium show, as we are seeing, you know, when you start selling tickets this early, whether it is WrestleMania or Elimination Chamber or Royal Rumble, is you don't have a card.
No.
There's not a story that is clear that you are pushing for this. So it really does depend on the strength of what you're currently doing and what people can anticipate. So from that, do you think All in Texas has a chance to sell out? Now, before you answer, I want to just mention this, that their seating capacity in Globe Life Field is somewhere around between 35 and 40,000. So it is not the 90,000 stadium situation that you have at Wembley, and it's not the stadium sizes that we're seeing for WrestleMania or for WWE PLE. So AEW kind of already implemented its scale down method in choosing this particular stadium. With that said, we're talking 35, 36, maybe 40,000 people. Can AEW pull this off?
I mean, I think that's going to be pretty tough because you sort of alluded to it. There's no card, but is there anything fully compelling that you're tracking that could help fill that stadium to 30 to 40,000? Everybody has a shot to do it, but I don't think they're as strong in the States as they are abroad. And especially with the product now, how attendance has been dropping, or how they had the blackout seats in a smaller arena, it could be somewhat disheartening, especially if you're an AEW fan. You're like, okay, you want them to perform in front of 30 to 40,000 people here in Texas, however she said it.
Wow.
I'm from Mississippi and I couldn't pull it off.
Wow.
But it's gonna be tough because current product and those projections. Well, if we just go based off what they're doing now, history wise, like they're not getting very high attendances. They're not getting very high viewership. It's hard for me to see this early, them being able to sell this out. Some things are gonna have to change up until July 12th. That's enough time to sort of build up to that card or build up AEW enough to that. But just with current numbers, it looks like there might not be a shot to fully sell it out. But we'll have to see. I mean, like I said, it's July 12th. Tickets are on sale now, right? So, and I think they're doing a lot of good in-kind things too, because I think with today, I think they did like a toy drive, like 12,000 toys or 12,000, something like that they did today. So building that good faith around the area, sort of doing what WWE does at WrestleMania for that week, but getting there early enough to start pulling some little things off like this to drum up some excitement for it. But man, current numbers are going to be tough to get to that.
For sure. Councilman, any thoughts? Do you think AEW can sell out the Globe Life Field?
I'm gonna go with yes.
Okay.
I think they can sell out 40,000 because I think even though we are seeing attendance, I think the biggest thing that we're not factoring in is they go to max next year.
Okay.
Max gets to promote in this domestic territory a lot bigger than AEW would, especially streaming these services. So a lot of the stuff that people are watching, like I feel like this elevates these things a lot more, because you also got to remember, like, Max is, well, especially if you're here in LA, Max is known to put on a lot of like events for shows and everything that's coming out. So there's no way, if Netflix is working with AEW, I mean with WWE and putting stuff out, that Max isn't going to have it to where other networks, brands, corporations are going to be introduced to these stars to be seen. And so with that, and then again, All In is one of their biggest pay-per-view PLEs, whatever they're going to start calling them now. And it is in Texas. Texas is a big wrestling state. And one of AEW's advantages is they have a lot of connection with legendary wrestlers within this territory. Arn Anderson will still get people to stand up here in AEW. If you were to say you're going to have Dustin Rhodes' last match and he's going to retire at AEW, that can bring in ticket sales as opposed, and we're not even getting to like your hot spotted talent that you're putting up there, from a Hangman Page to Swerve Strickland. Like, we don't know where these stores are going, but we do know, even if the attendance is shaky, we can admit that these PLEs have been picking up ever since All Out. Full Gear was great. These Dynamite, like last week's Dynamite, insane. So at least they're getting better with their program and storytelling. I think we can see they have the potential to make a big shift in the next 6 months. And I think having tickets on sale now allows people to say, hey, I want to go check that out. And then as matches start getting announced, I believe that AEW could fill up 40,000 for one of their biggest pay-per-views that they have.
Okay. Mayor, what do you think?
I think they'll do it rather easily. And I know I made this mistake on this program last year when they did their first London show, saying there was no chance they can do 50K, and then they heavily exceeded that. So I think with having the time that they are promoting it, not to mention like Texas being a wrestling state, the possibility of legends coming back and having one final match and things like that, but just the crossover appeal. You have superstars in AEW that have major crossover appeal, and you've been promoting it with all the major sports organizations already. I think they did their first promo with the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So you can make that crossover action with those teams, with the Cowboys, with the Texas Rangers, all these other sports franchises there are going to be helping you promote this event for the next several months before July. I have to believe that it'll be sold out at least 3-4 months before the actual show, and then the card will be able to take shape. So I think it's going to be a lot easier than people think, which will allow you to say like, hey, we can run this back years from now. We don't always have to do All In London. Let's try to go to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium in 2027 and do 80K plus in the States. I think it will be successful for them.
Well, I definitely want it to be successful for them. I think it's necessary, and I think they need big wins. And I think this move to Max, I think, is a big, big win for them. And it's a great opportunity. And hopefully it will translate to doing just that, selling out this venue. And I want them to have a successful year. I think it's important for the sport that they find great success. So there's that. I did not realize what time it is, so we'll try to hasten along. But something really important dropped today, and I wanted to make sure we talk about it. The PWI does its annual list. They've done the PWI 500, which is for men's wrestlers or those who wrestle men. That's safe to say, because there are women who end up on the PWI 500. There is the PWI now 250, which is designed for all women. It's an all women's list. And then, of course, they wrap up the year with the PWI 100, which is their look at the top tag teams of the year. So I'm going to run through the top 10 and tell you who the top team was for 2024. Now, let me start by saying, as we always do with these lists, we like to give you qualifiers so that you can understand the criteria. The evaluation period was November 1st, 2023 through October 15th, 2024. So keep that in mind. Criteria included, momentum, wins and losses, creativity, chemistry, activity, and the all-important It Factor, which, well,
either have it or you don't.
No greater way to make a list controversial than to base it on the It Factor. What's also unique about this is that these tag teams incorporate both male and female tag teams. So this is going to be fun. So at number 10 is FTR. Number 9 on this list is a team called Crazy Star. They are a female team out of Stardom. At number 8, it is the Bloodline, and that is the new bloodline of Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. Number 7 on this list is from All Japan Pro Wrestling. It is the Saito brothers. At number 6, oh, this one kind of touched my heart a bit. Number 6, representing TNA, it's the ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Our thoughts are still with Chris Bay. At number 5, representing New Japan Pro Wrestling, the Mighty Don't Kneel, TMDK, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste. Now we're at number 4. On number 4, we go to AEW for Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, a.k.a. the Young Bucks. Number 3 on this list, we go back to New Japan, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, known as Bishamon. Number 2 on the list, we go to NXT, the NXT Tag Team Champions, Nathan Frazer and Axiom. Number 2, they weren't even on the list last year. And certainly looking at that tag team match Saturday night, you can see why they are so high on this list. And the number 1 team for 2024 in all of pro wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill.
It wasn't them. It was about to be some smoke in the city. Yo,
huge congratulations to Bianca and Jade. This team, which nobody saw coming this time last year. Everybody talked about the dream match of Bianca versus Jade. We got to see their first face-off when Jade debuted in the Royal Rumble. But then it was after that we started to see the big 3. And, of course, then at Backlash, this team won the tag titles, and they've been off to the races. 2-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Your thoughts on this top 10 and Bianca and Jade leading the charge? Dion, we'll start with you.
I was with Will on this one. If this was if they weren't number 1, we were going to have a problem with this list. But no, perfect. I think great for number 1. I think this is a really good thing for the women's tag team division, seeing that they've held it down for this long, sort of finally bringing some credibility to those championships, because for the longest they seemed almost cursed.
Correct.
And the fact that they've been able to hold on to them, been able to have matches on PLEs for them too. They haven't, again, it's the star power of the two of them right there. Boy, look at them. Like, it's like their abs got personalities, man. Like, that's how, good grief. But anyway, they have held it down for that, given credibility to those titles. The star power between both of them, especially Bianca being, like, let's say she's top 3 in the company, or she's that high and above in that women's division. For her to carry these tag team titles was a big deal. The rest of the list, Axiom, this might be unpopular. I became a fan of Nathan Frazer after Saturday night. I thought he did great. I became a big fan of his pulling double duty that night. But yeah, I think 1 and 2, FTR bringing up the bottom. Solid list. A few that I need to go and look and watch, but the ones I do see that I am familiar with, it's dope. But to see them as number 1, that's the best part of this list.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Your thoughts on this list, Mayor?
I like number 1. If for anything, the tag team wrestling in WWE as a whole has been kind of down. It's had a very down year, but this division has been very strong. And I think highlighting this is only going to help women's wrestling in the tag team division go forward. I'm kind of on Fraxium being at number 2, but when I think about it, I'm like, who else? Like, who else has been putting on good tag team wrestling throughout WWE? Like, I'm having a hard time.
We talked about it consistently.
I'm really having a hard time when I think about WrestleMania and then Awesome Truth and A-Town Down Under winning. I'm surprised that the new bloodline is top 10 because I don't see it, especially those two. But I mean, overall, they nailed it with number one. And I think it just makes sense. And it furthers my agenda that Bianca did it. Because now you getting noticed even more. You getting some notoriety for your credibility in your work. This furthers my agenda. So I'm all for it.
Actually, after Friday night, I'm scared of the theory that I have, but that's another story for another day. Because I don't think Bianca did it, but I'm getting very scared that whoever did it might have a little glow connected to them. I'm kind of nervous about that. That's another story for another day. Yeah, so it's a very interesting list. Again, 100 teams on here from all across the world. I do believe, and I'll have to go back and double check because I don't want to be wrong about this. I have to go back and check how many women have actually topped this list before. The only other instance I could potentially see, and I have to just go back and check, is 2020, where it may have been Bailey and Sasha, but I got to go back and check. And so hopefully I'll have an answer for you. But we've got some other women's tag teams that are pretty high on this list, which is exciting to see. The Unholy Union, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, are 13 on this list, and that's ironically ahead of the Judgment Day, as did Finn Balor and JD McDonough, which you could make an argument, why are they so high on the list? But you know, it is what it is.
They're constantly on TV, so
yeah, I mean,
we are talking about them. So
Spitfire is number 18 on this list. DIY is 17. That still feels kind of high for them. Asuka and Kairi Sane are on this list at 23, which is also interesting. The New Day is at number 26. And shout out to the King Bees, who spent quite a bit of time as NWA Tag Team Champions, spent some time in Ashe as well. They are number 27 on this list. So congratulations to them. Yes, that is the issue. It has Joe Hendry on the cover. So I know that makes it an automatic win for the councilmen for sure. An automatic win. Okay, so before we get out of here, some big things happened over the weekend. As I mentioned, Ashe Wrestling celebrated its 1-year anniversary as it crowned its very first men's champion. I will just tell you, it was one of the wildest nights I have ever been a part of. And just in an attempt to try to be to try to be non-biased, I will offer congratulations to Darius Carter, who is the new and inaugural Ashe Wrestling Men's Champion. The way he did it was anything less than honorable from start to finish. He is a guy. Oh, no, I'm not laughing because he was not even supposed to be in the tournament. He did not qualify. He would not show up for his qualifying match. He did some rather despicable things Saturday night, including assaulting 2 women, including one of which was a referee. The other was a ring announcer. He told me in the ring that he owned me. So I'm not terribly thrilled about this happening, but it is where we are right now. If you guys would like to watch how this happened, because the how is as crazy as the what, go ahead and check it out at AsheWrestling.com. One of the wildest nights I have ever been a part of in my 5-year career. It was crazy. What I can tell you, though, is there is a bit of good news coming out of this, and that is the announcement happened that Ashe Wrestling is coming to Vegas on Mania weekend. So if you've wanted to ever experience Ashe Wrestling, you will get the opportunity to do it Mania weekend. Tickets are going on sale very soon at ashewrestling.com. The date for it is April the 17th. It'll be at 12 noon, and it'll serve as a very neat precursor to Wale Mania later that night. So by all means, you will want to experience Ashe Wrestling. A lot of people have been talking about Ashe, and they've wanted to know when they can experience it. Well, if you can't get to Charlotte, Ashe's coming to Vegas April 17th. Very excited about this. Be on the lookout for more information at ashewrestling.com. Now then, tonight, we've got a huge episode of Monday Night Raw, which will feature another triple threat first round match in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. Oh, I know poor Honey is, well, I was going to say she's divided, but she's really not. Zelina Vega, Lyra Valkyria, Ivy Nile, they will all battle tonight. The winner will move on to the semifinals. We'll hear from Drew McIntyre, who made his return last week. We'll hear from the New Day. I can only imagine what the New Day will have to say. By the way, I met Xavier Woods over the weekend. On top of that, this is supposed to be a very wild match. Did I see Falls Count Anywhere or something along that? Anything goes. That's what it is. Rhea Ripley, a.k.a. Mommy, taking on Raquel Rodriguez. Then we'll also hear from Seth Rollins. So a very full night on Monday Night Raw. You'll want to catch it at the top of the hour. Is there going to be a watch along tonight? Still up for debate. Okay, no worries.
You know, I got a family matter I got to attend to, but I might be able to do a watch along. It's going to be one or the other. It'll either be the post show or it'll be the watch along.
Okay. One of the two. So stay connected. Pay attention to your notifications, and you'll be able to check out what's happening on Monday Night Raw with the crew here at Women's Wrestling Talk. All right, then. Here's how you can hear from or connect with.
Whoa. Before we go to that, no. You're not escaping this, Mayor. I mean, you're not escaping this, Professor.
I'll say what I do.
You weren't here.
I'm trying to figure out what I did.
We all want to give you a congratulations and happy anniversary.
Oh, wow.
To your time here in the wrestling community. You were not here Friday to get your clap. You're getting your claps right now. Happy anniversary.
And another thing, I think we should make it our mission here to make sure the Professor shows up to Wale Mania with that Ashe Championship. Don't be talking about owning people in 2024.
I mean, to be fair, though, you saw the seat he was sitting in. You saw the chair. Only people I know sitting in them chairs are pimps. That's the only time I seen that chair out. Is 3 other women are around that chair. And I'm sure there were women right by that one. It just got cropped out.
Wow. So... Yeah. And yes, indeed, this is the last Raw before Saturday night's main event, and that should be something very special this week. Thank you, Boza. I appreciate that. Congrats to Ced. Yes, congrats to Ced. And thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know. So Councilman, how can they find you, sir?
You can find me at Yam Yam Bigelow on all socials. Shout out
I don't
Jada
know what
Parker.
Precipitated that, but wow.
That's Jada Parker's new nickname, Yam Yam Bigelow. I'm definitely gonna make a shirt. And I can let y'all see it. And then you can follow me on my Twitch and my Twitch and my YouTube at Tsunami State Alumni. And that's where you can find me.
Well. All right. Dion, how can they find you, sir?
Yeah, man. I'm over at All-Star Fandom Show on TikTok and Instagram and over on YouTube as well. Currently reviewing Star Wars Skeleton Crew that dropped 2 episodes last week. We bring on a panel for that as well. Our Star Wars experts there. So we'll be talking about that all the way up until the last episode of the season. So follow me over there. And yeah, I kind of want that Yam Yam Bigelow shirt too, Will. So a large, please.
Wow, we're putting orders in already. Wow.
Tell you, man, it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be that hot.
I can only imagine.
Wow. Oh boy. Courtney.
They can always find me here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know, Wednesdays, I always do my watch along for Dynamite. You can always find me over at Freshly Squeezed Central every Wednesday night on Dynamite. And I got a lot to say on what happened with my client over the weekend because, Moxley, you picked the wrong orange to mess with. But I'll save that for Wednesday since winter is coming. See what I did there? But also Saturday we will be doing a special watch along for Saturday night event for truly. So get your popcorn ready, get everything ready because you're going back to the 80s for Saturday night event. And also follow me on Instagram and Twitter on @CourtneyNJ11.
There's also gonna be a concert after the Saturday main event featuring a trombone player that Courtney will be hosting.
Actually, I've heard that she might be going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I have heard that. And in particular, she'll be looking for one of the pre-performances right before things go on. It is from Trombone Shorty, so she'll be looking for that. That's what I've heard. Said, how can the people find you?
First things first, I want to assure our viewers it's a PG show because Freshly Squeezed
It is.
sounds erotic. And
that whole diatribe from Courtney, I just was like, what is happening right now?
This is a PG program. And also to those in the chat, we are celebrating the anniversary of the professor. The mayor does not have an anniversary, but if you're congratulating my client, Lola Vice, we appreciate you. Since Saturday, we've been smoking on that Parker pack, and don't ask me why. I'll make sure my client is good, but we all right over there in Parkerville too. But we celebrate the victories and as the mayor here. You can catch me in 30 minutes, maybe. I don't know. But I will give you a post show. I will promise you I'll give you a post show within the next 24 hours if you guys don't see me on the watch along. Also, the social says on Twitter. Said is the answer on IG, CedricDWelton.com for the website. Also, I do got to start getting better about getting you guys' picks beforehand. So I want to make sure I write some literature this week for Saturday night main event. So I will collect everybody here's picks, and we'll have some literature up on the site for you guys before Saturday.
That sounds good. That's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun for sure. You guys can find me at Bonnerfied across all the socials. A lot is happening. A whole lot is happening. So just make sure you're following us there. You can check out my work, of course, with AsheWrestling.com. We are repping Ashe today. Also, AllCaribbeanWrestling.com. By the way, this is a new piece of news. You know, All Caribbean has been a sponsor here for Women's Wrestling Talk. Well, if you have an iPhone, for all of the iPhone users specifically, you get a chance to be one of the first to download the brand new All Caribbean Wrestling mobile app. The mobile app will give you an opportunity to check out a lot of the programming from All Caribbean Wrestling, and you can check out previous shows and all kinds of things that are happening there. So you can check it out right now at the App Store for the iPhone. It will be coming to the Android users very soon, so be on the lookout for that. Congratulations again to All Caribbean Wrestling. Also, Southern Honor had a big show this past Friday. It was a full weekend for me. That show will likely be up on IWTV sooner than later. And then next week, I'll be actually with the Nightmare Factory for their student showcase, and that'll be hitting YouTube at some point. And of course, it'll be the first student showcase with the WWE ID attached to it. So I'm looking forward to that being pretty special. Thank you all for joining us. Of course, for all things Women's Wrestling Talk, www.talkpod.com is the website. www.talkpod is the social space. A new website is yet coming, so be on the lookout for that. And then all kinds of great things happening. New interviews dropping. I've even heard, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this yet, so I'll just say this. Apparently, there is an interview coming with a WWE Hall of Famer. I can tell you that. I don't
think that got dropped. I think you're good to say that. I think I saw it on socials already.
Oh, did it drop already?
Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it did. I saw it on socials earlier today.
Oh, okay. So then, so she got it done. Cool. So that is Devon Dudley. Yes, Devon Dudley.
Oh, yeah. It dropped.
That has dropped. So you guys can go and check that out, and all of the other cool things that are happening here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys are amazing. Boza, cousin Ron, Jeffrey. Let's see. I've seen a lot of people. Cindy, I saw you in here earlier. How she missed your presence, Mayor, I don't know. Antoine, Eric, Special Little Nobodies, and all the people, wherever you're joining us from.
Actually, Dylan, if you watch this later on in Australia time, I need a graphic done. I need me and Sindil on the once in a lifetime graphic so we can play that whenever we beef on here. That would be awesome if you do that.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. This is great. This is great. Absolutely great. I love it. I love it. So with all of that said, I appreciate you guys rocking with us today. You guys are absolutely amazing, and keep staying connected to what we're doing here at WWT Live, because it's part of Women's Wrestling Talk, and we are the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WW Talk Pod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.